Still, Monastero, I'll come back to those, like I say, in the half-time break now. Let's go.
Tell me a little bit about you.
Well, what would you like to know?
Everything. How did you get into this world? Where do you come from? What's, like, why? What's your favorite thing? And some juicy stories, I don't know.
You want some juicy stories as well?
Or something, something that happened that you'll never forget, and something... Just be you.
Okay, well, I always am, first of all.
Yeah, exactly. So,
my name is Jan Erik Franck. I know I've got 3 Christian names, but that wasn't my fault. That was my parents. I have a German dad and I have a Dutch mother, and we grew up in England from a very young age. Went to English kindergarten, which is where we learned to speak the language. And when my parents split up, like most families do, I went back to Germany with my dad. Missed my brothers, went back to England, but you don't want to know all this. To cut a long story short, I then started, after my education, I did a apprenticeship with the Hilton Group, got into the catering side of business, did a season at Club Med, and then didn't really quite know where I wanted to go. Sales was definitely, and performing was sort of, my thing. And I then got a job working for Bacardi Rum. And Bacardi Rum, after a few years, took over became the agency for a very well-known champagne brand, Pommery. And I got appointed as a regional marketing manager, whatever you want to call it back then, for the brand, Pommery. And again, I think I did a relatively good job, because I then got promoted to look after the UK. So in 1998, for the 3rd time, I went back to the UK. And Pommery, their vehicle, or one of their vehicles to promote the brand, was Polo. And we had a very good team back in the day, playing all over the world. Juan Bellini, John Manconi, Henry Brett, and Picky Alberti. And we even won in 99 or 2000, I can't remember. I think it was 1999, we won the British Open. Now, there are only 3 major tournaments in the world as a polo player, as a professional polo player, you want to win. The Argentine Open, the American Open, and the British Open. And we won with Pommery, we won the British Open. And I got hooked. I mean, if you like horses, which I've always liked, you can't be a professional cowboy, not in this part of the world, but you can at least get into polo. And that's how I got into polo, started to learn to play at the Royal County of Berkshire Polo Club, which was set up by the late Brian Morrison, who was a very famous music publisher. He published people like George Michael, The Clash, Wham. The club is now run by his son Jamie, and I worked there for a couple of years after I learned how to play. And then in 2004, I decided to go and do what I did for one polo club for as many as possible. And in 2004, I set up my own little company, MIG Polo, and a lifestyle brand as well, Après Polo, that's also mine. And I hadn't really thought about commentating at that time. And then one day someone came up to me and said, Jan, would you like to come and commentate in Klosters in Switzerland? And before I could even say I'm not a commentator, he said, we'll pay you. And that made me a commentator. And that is now over 10 years ago. And
so how did you learn that skill?
What, to commentate?
Yeah, and then just to have how did you find your voice?
Do you know, it's a very good question. I never really thought of it like that. I just, got thrown into the deep end and just got off and ran with it. And I must be doing something right, because I'm still doing it 10 years later. And some very, very interesting and some big names in the world of polo then, heard about me and asked me to come and do their tournaments. I've been now doing the commentary in the Samurai Snow Polo for many, many years. I do the British Open in England. I commentate that as well. I've just come from England 2 days ago commentating some matches for the Royal Windsor Cup. And polo has taken me literally all over the world, from Wellington, Florida, where I do the WPL, the World Polo League, all the way to Azerbaijan, Baku, for the Arena Championships. And for the first time now this year, I'm also here at Polo Park Zurich, and I'm having a great time.
Is that what you do now full time? But you still have your après polo?
I have the après polo. Wow. I would say 80% of my time is taken up by the commentary. But I also have, and I have been for many years, because I remember when I got into polo, I remember thinking, there's a lot going on and it's always so far away. How can you bring the sport a little bit closer to the spectator so they have more of a viewing pleasure? And I looked at other sports like, and this was in Dubai, funnily enough, the offshore power speedboat racing. You know, you hear these boats from miles away, you can't see them. And what, of course, they do there, like in Formula One, you've got these gigantic screens that will keep showing you what they're doing. And in 2004, I launched, you know, the idea of having big screens at polo matches. And ever since then, we've now been putting or providing screens. The world's largest mobile screens are 100 square meters, of which we sometimes have 2 in either corner, to show the action, show replays, and it's gone down very well with the spectators. So I do that in the UK, only in the UK.
Okay.
And the rest of the year, I'm out and about, literally living out of a suitcase.
So how's COVID affected you?
Not good. Obviously, a commentator is only really, you know, worth having if you have an audience. But with COVID, we couldn't have many tournaments for a long time. We couldn't have an audience. I've done a little bit of online or TV work, which is then, you know, shown later on. But this has been one of my first. I think I've only done 4 or 5 this season in front of a live audience, and I always prefer a live audience because you can pick up a rapport with an audience.
So, but would you do you know, you want to keep staying in this world, or could you use your talent for something else? No, because right now, I mean, have you ever thought about it?
I have, and if you want me to read the weather, I'll read the weather. I mean,
Right.
I'll do. I don't really care now, but I do, of course, having been an active player, I do enjoy the sport because it's what I do. I have also in my career, I was asked one year, this is many years ago, to do the EHL, the European Hockey League, which is, you know, a high level of hockey. But no, I'm open for anything. I'm still only, you know, a tender 53, so I've still got half of my life ahead of me.
Yeah, at least.
At least. So no, I'm always open, but of course my heart does beat for polo.
This, right. What's failure like for you? How have you seen people deal with it? Who deals with it the best, in your opinion, or what do you think about failure?
Failure in principle, or failure as a commentator, or
As
failure
anything. As a commentator, if like sometimes if you say the wrong names, or have you ever messed up?
Yes, of course. Oh,
Yeah.
I've had some mistakes. Of course, I've made mistakes. One of the most embarrassing mistake that I ever had was when I was commentating on the Queen's Ground at Guards Polo Club. That's sort of, you know, like centre court at Wimbledon, if you will. And it was the first time that I had to also introduce not only the marching band that came on, it was a final, and I also had to ask people to be upstanding for the national anthem. So not a lot to remember, but when you've got a lot of people there watching, and you've got, you know, a band coming on, a marching band, and the players are there, you know, you just don't want to get it wrong. And of course, I'd completely forgotten about the national anthem. So the band came in, played their music, and I went straight into, and ladies and gentlemen, at number 1. And I remember the chief executive, a very dear friend of mine who no longer is with us, Charlie Stice, he came running out of the royal box saying, yeah, you forgot the national anthem. So that was a bit embarrassing. How do you deal with it? Well, how do I deal with it? You know, I think the first thing, if you've made a mistake, is recognition. So once you recognize that you've made a mistake and you don't challenge that you've made a mistake, I think then you're already halfway to getting over it. Of course, it's never easy when you're embarrassed to downplay the embarrassment. But I think, like somebody once said to me, you know, there is no such thing as a stupid question, only a stupid answer. So if you've made a stupid mistake, and if you're halfway smart, you won't make that mistake again. So that's how I deal with it. But of course, one always tries to be better than the last time. You know, there is always still room going up. And as long as you have the adrenaline, every time I take a microphone into the hand, even though people say I come across as being very confident, yeah, I probably am, but I am nervous. And until I'm sort of found my rhythm and I get into the flow of things, just like the players, very often in the first chukker, they take a chukker or half a chukker just to get used to the opponent, get used to the surroundings, especially on a big finals day. So you've just got to keep your composure, stay focused, stay concentrated, make sure you don't forget to mention what you've been told to mention, like sponsors' names and maybe any charities that are there. So, you know, I think as a polo player or as a sportsman, like I say, I played myself as well, you are constantly trying to improve yourself. And part of that, I think, is also being open for what I call constructive criticism. And if somebody gives me the time to make me improve on what I could do better, then that's, I think, a very endearing feature, which, of course, you know, I'm very thankful for and gladly will take that on board.
So I've known you 2 days now.
2 hours, yeah.
So you know, you're very genuine, and I think you just, you know, you have this personality that's very sparkly and say things. And these days, unfortunately, there's a lot of censorship in terms of things that can be said or not.
Yeah.
And so how do you deal? You stay yourself, or do you, you know, where do you, you know, find that fine line where, you know, where to stop or how far to go?
Well, again, that goes down to the odd bit of criticism that I get, and I sort of dance with that line. You know, I can see it, and sometimes I will get a little bit closer to it, and sometimes I'll move back a little bit. But for me, it's important that I always try and deliver what the tournament organisation or the person that has appointed me, what they want. Now, there are, of course, certain countries in the world and certain cultures in the world where you have to be a little bit more discreet in what you say. Humour, of course, is something which I like to build my commentary on, but my humour doesn't always go down as well as maybe I'd like it to. So you've got to, I have to fine-tune myself as to where can I go. And obviously sometimes there are situations or scenarios which are so inviting to, you know, make a joke out of. So I will then try and just sort of sugarcoat it a little bit and get the audience to maybe think by using a different way of saying what I want to say, and then I might get a delayed laughter. But I think at the moment with the world, and it has been for quite a while, being, well, not exactly a happy place, I think we can't laugh enough.
I agree.
And if I can, even if it's just for a few brief moments, get, you know, people to smile and have a good moment, a feel-good factor, just through a funny little couple of words, then I'm happy.
What's your mission in life?
To be happy.
To be happy. You seem seems like it's working.
Well, it's working, but, you know, every now and then you've got to go in for an MOT, you know, you've got to have your car, and I also have to do that, because happiness is dependent on what you do yourself, but also the influence that you have from the outside world. And if you can sort of avoid the people who aren't going to give you happiness and just go to those who will, I think then you're on the right path. But no, happiness and health above all, I think, especially in this day and age, are very, very important.
How do you maintain your happiness? Just by people around you, but like if you go down that rabbit hole, how do you get yourself back up? For me to learn, maybe.
No, one thing, but again, you know, doesn't apply to everyone, so I'm never going to preach, but I'm going to say, definitely venture into it. For me, music is a very, very powerful source where I can go into that hole, if you will. But not only if I'm in a down, but also if I'm on a high. Music is for me, it's a bit like fish for water. I need music every day. First thing I do before I even have a cup of tea in the morning is I turn on my music. So music is a very important thing. Family to me is very, very important. Since what happened to me in my romantic life, the last 4 years have been very important. My girlfriend, unfortunately, we don't live together. She lives in Germany. I still live in the UK. But I get a lot of happiness from her. Just kindness from people. And above all, honesty. You know, my mother is very, very... She really hammered that into us. She said, you can do whatever you want, just never lie. So honesty is a big thing. So I buy into that.
One last thing. What would you say to the little you?
The little me?
Yeah.
I would say...
You know better.
From back in the day? Or...
Yeah, the young you, and now that you know better, like maybe, or like the teenager you, or like some point where you, like what, or to younger people following suit, you know, anyone, like what would be one advice?
One advice is from an early age, try to be as honest and as loyal to yourself as you can. Whilst you can at a young age, feed of those who are there for you, like your parents, your siblings, your family, who only have good intentions for you, and take those on board, because we're all a little rebel when we're young. But of course, you know, if I'd known what I know today 30 years ago, you know, I might be a multi-millionaire.
Or not.
Exactly. No, I'm not. I don't need to be a multi-millionaire. Yeah. I'm a multi-millionaire in so much that I have a lot of great friends, and I have 2 brilliant brothers, and I have a relatively big family. And I think just be kind. Be kind and treat people the way you want to be treated by people.
That's right. That's right. Well, thank you so much
My pleasure.
for this spontaneous, little interview. That was awesome.
My pleasure. Thank you.